Welcome once again to Mazecast. Tonight we're going to be talking about Room 37. I think we're just going to get right into it. None of this preliminary messing around. We're just going to talk about Room 37. Any objections, Alex?
Nope, not yet.
Okay. All right, so 37, much like 39, is a room that there seems to be a coherent explanation that ties together almost all the elements in the room. And it seems to, well, maybe it's easiest if we start at the end and kind of work backwards. This is a room where the text notes at the end that the group's divided on which way they want to go. Half of the room wants to go one way, half of the room wants to go the other way. They hear a jiggling behind one of the doors, and they all move away from it closer together, and then they soon decide which way they're going to go. The implication being that they decide that they're afraid of the rattling on the door, so they want to go the other way. So that communicates to us from the beginning that sort of what we're looking for is something about the room that points us in two different directions, one of which is one of the doors that, let me pull up the picture now while I'm doing this. I should say one of the exits that actually has a door on it, which would be either 15 or 10. And, well, I guess hypothetically they could both be ones with doors, but at least one of the doors that the room's going to point to is going to be one of the exits that has a door, so that when the door is rattled, we know that's the one they decide against. The other one, as it turns out, is going to be one of the open doorways, but I guess it wouldn't necessarily have to be. But in any case, we're starting with that idea that the room is pointing in two different directions. Now, this is one where there's a lot of interplay between the text and the picture, so it's hard to just go talk about the picture and then talk about the text separately. So I'm going to be kind of bouncing back and forth. There are several things in the text that make reference to looking at things from a different angle, I guess. Or, there's the line, important messages are couched in ambiguous terms, which I guess doesn't literally have anything to do with looking from different directions, but has to do with different meanings that can be applied to things. There's the statement, we must look at this from all sides before we make a decision, probably the really explicit instruction from the direction to look at things from different sides. And even the line, a long open room with no roof, ends up being important to us, the fact that the room doesn't have a roof. Because what we see in this room, when you think about looking at it from different angles, as you look at the objects in it, we've got some geometric figures, a lot of radially symmetric figures. And the revelation, I guess, is that if you think about looking down on this room from on top, you see a number of objects that are going to end up looking like O's, like zeros, because they're radially symmetric. You've got that vase in the back, you've got the cone, you've got the bottle, and you've got the sphere, and you've got the head of the net, which makes a zero, and its shadow even falls there, making a pretty explicit zero there. And you look at the top of the dice. Well, let me put the dice aside for a minute, because that's going to point in a particular direction. But the point is here, we've got this suggestion of, at least starting out with this idea, if we're looking down on this room, we have a number of objects that are going to suggest zeros to us, which could apply to one of two rooms. We've got 10 on the left-hand side and 20 on the right-hand side, each of which has a zero in it. Now, you look at the dice. If you look at those from the top, the same way we're looking down on everything else, you've got a 2 on top of one die and a blank on top of the other die, which is suggestive of 2, 0, which points towards door 20. On the other hand, you've got the net, which forms a 0, but then also has the straight handle on it, which is suggestive of a 1. And in fact, the guide even points to the net when the group asks what's going on here, and says that net may help you catch the answer to your question, after talking about messages couched in ambiguous terms, and then makes a statement about looking at things from all sides. Notably, net spelled backwards is 10, and,
Nice.
and the shape of the net suggests a 0 and a 1, and even I think the shadow of the net combined either with the table leg that it's encircling, or maybe the shadow of the table leg it's encircling. But there's an image of a 1 and a 0 down there.
Yeah.
So we've got the left-hand side of the room with the net, which is suggesting 10. We've got the dice on the right-hand side of the room suggesting 20, and we have a number of other things in the room suggesting something with a 0. And then we go back to the idea we started with at the end of this, where I'll just read from the text. They really couldn't decide which way to go. Half of them wanted to go one way, half another. They were close to splitting up when there was a rattling sound, and one of the doors was shaken from the other side. They all stopped talking and moved closer together. They soon agreed on a direction, and we departed for. And so, as we limit it between 10 and 20.
Wait a second. Let me say something here.
Yes.
I just realized this. I just came to me when you were saying that. Is if you split up 20, you could do it into 2 10s, and so by not splitting it, you're choosing 20 unsplit, like not 10 over 2.
That's interesting, especially since if you look at the net as a 10, you've got the net itself being a 10, and then you've got the shadow of the net being a 10. So it's kind of like the net itself is a 20 split up into 2 groups. You know what I mean?
Yep.
The way that you get the correct answer is by not splitting it apart like that. Now, that's interesting.
Yeah, I just realized that when you were saying it, and then never thought of it that way. I always just left it at you're choosing one of the two, but which one is stronger? And there's never really been an answer to that. You know what I mean? Like there seems to be the same equal amount of clues pointing to one than the other. And
10 and 20.
Yeah, and I don't know that they are like afraid of the door rattling because it's not written like that. It doesn't say that they're startled or any adjectives like that. They just say that they stopped. Where is it?
Well, it says they all stopped talking and moved closer together.
Yeah. There you go. Maybe if you combine the net and its shadow, you're back at 20. You got 2 10s, 2 nets / 10s.
I mean, I guess you're right. It's not explicitly saying they were afraid of the noise and they moved away from the noise. I think that is the implication. But, going with implications isn't always a safe move in this either. I still think it's probably solid, but I can see your point, certainly. And I think it's potentially just as solid, although we've just said it, so I don't know, not too sure about it, but the idea that the net provides 2 different 10s, which is 20 split up, and when they come back together, that gives you the right answer. I think that's probably not too bad.
I just thought that with the dice, it was almost too easy. Like I never trusted it just because, I don't know, it just seemed too obvious.
Well, one of the problems with the dice, and especially when we're looking for there to be 2 different answers, is there's also a 1 and a 5 on the dice. I mean, you don't see them by looking down on it, so it doesn't fit that theme of looking down on the room. But I mean, you could just as easily, I suppose, say,
there's definitely no 4. Like, there's no 4 on the dice, and there's no 4-sided objects in the room, I would argue.
Yeah, 42 doesn't seem to have much going for it. Although, I mean, this isn't really exactly a clue for it, but there is there's a connection there in room 42. The door that leads to room 37 does have the 2 dice on it, which I guess is suggestive of sort of a path between the 2 rooms or a connection between the 2 rooms that doesn't actually figure into the path, either coming or going, but it does sort of suggest that,
Are they the same? No, they're not.
No, the dice are not the same.
Not the same. Huh.
Although both sets of dice are like irregular dice,
Weird.
because in 42 you've got the die with two ones on it, and then in well, they do both have that 1, 2, 3 die.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're arranged quite the same, the numbers. Yeah. Um, and well, I'm not sure which direction to go because I don't want to get too far off topic. But on the other hand, we're kind of on the topic. The interesting thing, I think, with 42 is that's the room that has the bear and the saints that way, sinners this way sign in it, and it's got the pair of dice on 37, which seems to be suggestive of like paradise. But
No, no, no. I think it was just part of the theme of because they wanted to split up the salt and pepper. They wanted he just really wanted to make you think of a pair, right? Because a pair of scissors, a pair of dice, like
yeah.
there's not a lot. If he was gonna a pair of shoes, but he's already got that in the room. But let's focus here. Let's go back to 37.
No, hold on a second, because I'm relating this to 37. Is what I'm saying is there. I do think, with speaking of saints and sinners and there being a pair of dice on 37, it is suggestive of the word paradise. And when you get to 37, there's the idea that you need to look down on the room from above, which fits with the concept of paradise. Paradise is kind of an ambiguous term itself because it's used to refer both to like the Garden of Eden, which
Right.
is associated with room 30, but it's also associated with heaven, which I'd say the idea that you're looking down on you need to look down on the room from above in 37 does have a meaningful connection to paradise in that manner. So I don't know that that's totally pointless to make that connection, the pair of dice in 37.
That's good. I like it.
And I don't know. I mean, I'm not totally sure what that saints this way, sinners this way sign is about either. But that very well could be relating to sinners this way relates to the Garden of Eden, and saints this way relates to paradise, where the saints would be up above looking down.
Where would the sinners go? 30.
30. With just referencing that's the Garden of Eden room.
Right.
And the Adam stuff.
Gotcha.
They are the archetypal sinners, I guess. So, okay, we can go back to 37.
A while back, I mentioned something about because you're taking the view from the top in order to see all these shapes as cylindrical. You would have to climb the ladder in order to see it.
Yeah, I think that ties into it as well. Once you've got the idea that you're looking down on this stuff from above, it does seem to fit that theme. The idea that 20 is the exit that lets you actually look down and do that by climbing up that ladder. And also, there in the text, it says they soon agreed on a direction, and we departed for, which I might be reading too much into it, but it is suggestive at least that they're not just picking a different. All the exits go out the same way.
Yeah.
If they're picking one door or another, I don't know that you'd say they're picking a direction necessarily because they don't know what direction they're going to go, but they know that the ladder is going to take them up. So in that sense, they are picking a direction by picking that as opposed to picking wherever the hell the other rooms go. I don't know what's going on with 42, if that's just like a dead drop or what.
It's possible it wouldn't be the only one in the maze.
Yeah. It's interesting if you're trying to keep track of like heights and levels in the maze. Going up this ladder does take us back up from where we went down the ladder in 12 to go to room 39.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you're keeping score, which I don't know why anyone would be, because the heights really don't work out otherwise. One of the remaining mysteries of this room is how it fits into the riddle of the path, because it's this different arguments for how you get a letter from this room and what that letter should be. There's pretty much.
I would say I, letter I, just because
But
there's a
there
big
is no
device.
I in shoulders. So
No,
that,
but are we looking for letters in the word shoulders? Is that
yeah,
what you're saying? Is that the last one? The last
yeah,
one with missing shit? Uh,
yeah, like Atlas.
I don't know, man.
You bear it upon your shoulders. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's. Oh, right. Obviously, it seems to relate to here. Let me screen share again. It seems like you got to do something with all these eyes that are on the pillars that connect to the arches over the doors. But what do you do with them? Well, it's on the return path. Different rooms containing letters that spell out shoulders, which is the last word of the riddle of the path. There's pretty much general agreement about what letters you get from what rooms, except for 37 and 15. And 15 immediately precedes 37. And the two letters that we have left that we need to get to spell out shoulders are H and E. Now we're kind of sidestepping 37 again for a minute, but I think we have to get this point out there. 15 has a ton of stuff in it that starts with the letter H, like very conspicuously contains H objects. And so it's very easy to say, well, it's probably cluing the letter H then. That leaves the letter E for this room, which doesn't leave us a ton of good options. Now, if you can see it, no one else seems to give a damn about this. I think it looks like something, and I'd be very confident about it if other people liked it, but no one else thinks this is anything. If you look at the bottom of the vase here, on this glaring spot at the bottom,
I see it. I see it.
you can see a tiny little E there. Now, obviously, that's hidden in with and made to look like the crosshatch shading that you see on everything throughout the maze, and so that's the response to that. Say, yeah, okay, it's one line vertical and 3 lines horizontal, but look, that's just some shading. It doesn't mean anything.
No, it's clear as day. It's clear as day. I think that's the one.
Well, this is the first time you said that.
Hey, if you're gonna pitch that as only because Vince, you said all that precursor to it, is saying that was a. Honestly, I totally forgot that the word shoulders was missing. Like I completely forgot that. Now that you told that backstory about that being the one letter missing, I buy it completely. only because of I think I'm pretty familiar with his artistic style, and that's like it's sticking out pretty far there. You know, it's not like in the other rooms where there might be something and you're not sure. This if I could zoom in on this, I could show you, but I think I even saw it on your screen. It was pretty clear on your screen, even.
Oh, sorry, I took it off. But if people, I don't know how clear it's going to be in the final video. You might have to get your own copy and take a look at it. But I made another image, which regrettably I never sent to myself or put on Google Drive or anything, so I can't access it here. But I compared that E with some of the E-looking stuff in Room 1. In particular, the E in the word like that you get, and it's very similar. The cross-hatching E in 37 with the 1 downstroke and the 3 strokes. I mean, it's not exact and perfect, but it looks about like the E in like, which we all know is supposed to be an E. So anyway, I thought that was legit. Another theory that's been floated for the letter E is that a lot of the objects in the room end with the letter E. You've got dice and the cone and a sphere, a bottle, a vase. Most of the objects, the table, just about all the objects that are in the room except for the net. I don't know if that was originally Gentile's suggestion. It may be. He may have been the person who came up with that. And I didn't like it at first. I'm a little more sympathetic to it after I realized that this room came right after. I mean, I knew that I didn't put together that this room came right after Room 15. So if we accept, okay, Room 15 is cluing H by having a bunch of stuff that starts with the letter H, and then room 37 is cluing E by having a bunch of stuff that ends with the letter E. I don't think that's as far-fetched. I thought it was kind of silly at first, just because that's kind of the way the English language works. We have a lot of silent E's at the end of our words, so it wasn't that big a deal. But it could be legit, and I think it also kind of fits with the I's if there's kind of this bridging of taking letters at the beginning of the word in 15 to taking letters at the end of the word in 37, and we also have all these I's in the room that both begin and end with E, that maybe that's a legitimate cluing to the letter E. The problem with all this stuff is just that everywhere else is so easy. Like, you don't have to dig or think to get these letters, you know? With, I mean, the exception of the 23, if we're correct that the scroll in there is cluing O, which we'll get to when we cover 23. But, like, you go to room 8 and there's just a piece of paper hanging on the wall that has an S on it, you know? You go to 12 and there's just a U and a D sitting against the wall. You go to 20 and there's a newspaper-looking thing with an S on it, you know? Like, for the most part. Oh, and then in 39, there's just below the letter R. It's just sitting on a shelf, you know?
And then there's even debate about the letter O in that room as well.
And it's debate on whether you get the O from 39 or from 23.
But you know what, though? It's still not as bad, because either it's there or it's not, but the O is still sort of there. Like, everybody can see it. There's no debate optics of the drawing, which there is in 37. But I buy it. I'd buy it. That looks like an E to me. I can't see for shit, but I can still see that.
Okay. I'm trying to think if there's another. Oh, yeah. Now, another suggestion that's been made, which I'm going to mention it, although I think I would dismiss this one. Well, there are a couple I would dismiss out of hand. Number one, the idea that you get a letter from the ladder. Now, you can just choose 3 rungs and one of the ropes that connects them and say, hey, that's an E. But that seems like bullshit, because you got to ignore the other rope and the other rungs. I mean, essentially, you've got a grid there, and you're picking some lines on it to make an E. You know?
Yeah, it's too convenient. It's just.
Well, you could do it anywhere. I mean, you could take one of these columns and say, okay, this right here is the base of the E, and then these 3, grooves going over. That's an E.
Or you could take the net, or you can take the webbing in the net. And
yeah.
Or pretty much any letter you want.
Which actually would be nice. I wonder if there's anything that sticks out as looking like a letter in that net. Now that you say that, I don't see anything offhand.
Well, yeah, you can see H, you can see E, whatever. The other thing I wanted to say is, and I thought you were going to mention it actually, was there could be a where the net shadow is, with the shadow of the leg of the table. That could be like a lowercase E, sort of. But I don't buy it. I prefer the one in the urn.
Yeah, I could see the lowercase E, although, I mean, really, it looks more like a Q than anything else.
Yeah.
We just
now that you mentioned it, I didn't even notice that. Yeah, there it is.
I think someone mentioned that the 5 on the dice could stand for E, the 5th letter, but that's a real desperation move, because, obviously, you got 1s and a 2 and a 3. Obviously, you're just, you need an E, so you're looking for something that couldn't fairly be construed to clue the letter E, I don't think.
I would buy it if he drew the dots on the dice in the shape of an E, like if you connected the dots, they formed it.
Yeah.
No question, right? But it's like what you said in a previous episode about if he wants you to look at something the way it's supposed to be, he draws it normally. If he wants you to take a clue out of it, he draws it abnormally, like a chair with 6 legs as opposed to 4. And so I'm saying for that reason, I don't think that's the purpose of the dice, or anything else that's involving numbers. Converting them to letters in this room. I think it's all pretty. I think we outlined it pretty well.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It's been. I think I said this, but maybe didn't clarify it. It's also been suggested that maybe you get the H from this room. I think, which has only been suggested that you do from the ladder. So you know how I feel about that. And then you get the E from 15, maybe from the shadow that comes down from the ceiling. It's also been suggested you can get the E from room 8 on the six-legged table, because on its side it kind of looks like an E. I'm not too taken by those suggestions, but they're out there. They're for you to think about. I don't think that any of the ways that we're getting the letters to spell shoulders are 100% satisfactory to anybody at this point.
Yeah, they're dubious. My favorite one is the little E in the urn, but even that, I'm still gonna look for other stuff.
Yeah. Just some little things to note about this, and then we can go. We've sort of gone line by line through the text already, but we'll go through to make sure we didn't overlook anything. You've noted before, and when you said it, I think I said like, "Oh, that's really stupid," but I don't think it is stupid that the cone. Oh, you know why I thought it was stupid? It's because we didn't have
pointing up.
Yeah, about how it kind of forms an arrow pointing up the glare on the side closest to us, because the shadow from the die casts this little corner onto the cone, so that you get kind of an arrowhead shape pointing up. And you suggested that might be an indication to look at this room from above. I said that was stupid because at that point we hadn't thought about the zeros, the radial symmetry, and all that stuff. We just knew that the 2 and the 0 were on the top side of the dice.
Yeah.
You were saying, man, that's a clue to look down on the top side of the dice. I'm like, no, that's stupid. It's a cone. It points up. That's what it does.
You know what's funny is even though I mentioned that, I never said anything about it pointing towards 42. I guess it's because we're reverse engineering this, so there's no reason why it should. But it would be interesting to see if somebody else said, "Oh, well, it's pointing towards 42 because it's got an arrowhead that's pointing towards 42."
Well, I think that'd be a fair thing to say. Although, boy, if you really line it up with a ruler, I think it might be pointing just past 42. But it's certainly pointing up there, and it's in front of the door and everything. I think generally we probably, actually, the fact that it kind of looks like it's pointing at 42 only sort of strengthens in me the belief that it might be legit pointing up, not at 42.
Yeah.
Because it seems like the
40
idea that it's pointing up occurred to Manson, and he put it there as kind of a false clue. But generally speaking, just something pointing at a door is not going to be a sufficient clue to make you feel good about picking that door. And so if you take the obvious interpretation, you're missing it. Whereas in reality, this is just one more of many clues pointing you at looking down from up, or going up, whatever you want to say it. I think that's plausible. Another thing about the eyes is that every room that connects to room 10 has some kind of thing with eyes in it. 41 has the doll. It seems to be pointing at its eyes, potentially. It might be pointing at its hair or something. We don't know. But at least it's sort of pointing at its eyes. And there's the idol totem-looking thing in there that has kind of a bullseye. And there's the frog has eyes, but, what do you want? It's a frog. It's going to have eyes. But 41 has a couple of things drawing attention to eyes. 34, of course, is the room where half the room is about cluing different kinds of eyes, the eyes on a potato, and the eyes of a needle, and a bullseye, and the eye on the Argo, whatever. Eyes are a huge part of room 34. And then room 14, you've got a bullseye drawn on the wall. And then here you've got these eyes. Why? I mean, in 34, the eye is suggestive of 0, at least, whatever else it might mean. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be accidental that every room connecting to 10 has these eyes in them.
Yeah, I never realized that before.
But on the other hand, it doesn't seem to do much for you. And 10 is generally not the correct room to go to. I mean, well, I shouldn't say generally.
You're almost there. Once you get to 41, you're pretty much home safe.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. From 34 and 14, 10 is the right way to go. From 41 and 37, 10 is not the right way to go. I really think that this is kind of like a last step fake out from Manson as to the correct route, because 37 has this connection to 10 anyway. Because on 10, of course, is the room when you go in there and you find out why there's rattling on this side of the door. It's because the group in 10 hears talking in 37 and rattles the door. There's this weird time thing going on. 37 and 10 are connected in this really interesting way, and yet 10 is not part of the path through the maze, and so it really leaves you just scratching your head as why did he make this strong connection between these rooms that doesn't play at all into the correct path through the maze. And I think in our episode on Room 5, I suggested that the reason these rooms are connected like that is so that you could say that there's only one door between 37 and 10, instead of saying there are two doors as there are between all the other rooms, and that makes the door count work out correctly without giving away that there's a hidden door.
Well, wait a second. If you go from 37 to 10, you can go from 10 to 41 to 1. You can still make it out of the maze. Maybe
right.
One extra step, right?
Right. I got lost in my own thoughts. That's what I was getting at. If you're trying to find the way out of the maze, you're still trying to put the path together. Going from here to 10 to 41 to 1 seems like
not so bad.
Right? It seems like you're doing a pretty good job. There's this connection between 37 and 10, so you think, all right, this is the right step, and then I can't go right from 10 to 1, but 41's got to be the shortest path from between 10 and 1, so, why do I have this extra step in here? What's going on? I mean, of course, if you take the bother to map it out, then it's easy to see that there's a shorter way back. But it does seem like there's a deliberate kind of fake out going on with the relationship between 37 and 10, especially with the net stuff, the fact that there's the room's kind of half pointing towards 10 anyway. Anything else without going into the text that you want to say about this room?
No, I mean, all I want to say is I did notice this before. There's a wooden floor with planks. I don't know if that's done anything for us. I haven't counted them certainly, but
there are exactly 20 of them. Now I want to count them, even though I don't think you can count them. I think they sort of get indistinct at the border.
Pretty numerous. It's possible there's 42 of them, but I wouldn't say anything less than that. Certainly.
I don't think they're countable.
No.
The lines between them blur in with the grains on the board as you get towards the end there.
Yeah.
Okay. A long, open room with no roof. I don't know why long. I don't know why it's important that it's long. We've commented on the fact that it's open and has no roof. Contributes to the idea of looking down.
Maybe he uses a lot of O's in that sentence. He uses 1, 2, 3.
Open room.
I'm not going to count them, but he uses a lot of them, and the O is important in this.
You're right. There are a lot of O's. Now, it's important for Gentile's maze time calculation that this is an open room with no roof, because that means the shadows are being cast by sunlight, so you can make some attempt to figure out the position of the sun from this room. I can't go any further than that. I don't know exactly what he did with that. Although the funny thing is the shadows don't all really go in the same direction. It looks like they're being cast by a much closer light than the sun, because the one die has a shadow going this way and the other one has a shadow going this way. Well, let's not give Manson a pain in the ass about that. About his shadows. I don't know that really means.
It's a fair point, but it doesn't help us much.
No. What is going on here? They wondered. That seems like an odd sentence there. I mean, I guess maybe not. Maybe it's just so generic and meaningless that that's why it's hard to explain what's going on with it. There's nothing going on with it. Or maybe it's just said so that the guide has something to sort of respond to when he says what's actually important, which is sometimes important messages are couched in ambiguous terms, I said. The net may help you catch the answer to your question. So there's the guide pointing you to the net, which is the wrong direction. No big surprise there. That's the guide's job, to screw you over. But look what they say. They look doubtful. We must look at this from all sides before we make a decision. And the guide says, at last, they were learning. Which suggests he's internally saying, they're smart enough to doubt what I'm telling them, and they've correctly decided they have to look at this from all sides before they do it. But also interesting is just that at last part, because if you're following the loop, this is very near the end of it. But you wouldn't necessarily get here from the loop. You could get to this room relatively quickly, I guess. I mean, you have to go through, I think you'd have to follow the path for a ways, I think you'd have to get to 15. Well, you can go to 15 from 30, right? And then you could come here from 15. So you wouldn't have to go through too many rooms to get here. So if you're following a different path other than the true path, this at last seems a little premature. Sort of like the guide has gone through this long journey and he's at the end of his chain. It's like, oh, finally they're learning. Kind of like in room 20, where as soon as they enter the room, they're like, too many animals for a proper house. And if that's the first room you went to in the house, then it's like, yeah, that's the first animal you've seen, you whiny sons of bitches.
Unless you count the fish on the cover.
Yeah. So there's something about this, that's the text of this room, that suggests it should come a little later in the series than, the first time you can possibly come here. At least I think so. Indeed, this is the decision you make in this room is the second to last decision you make. And once you get to room 20, it's pretty easy to know that you're going to room 1. I mean, it's as easy as choosing to go to room 45 from 17. And actually, I suggested this. I don't know that it's, well, if you've been following the loop up to the point that you get to 37, you know that you've got 2 more steps to make it to room 1, which means you know that the next room you go into has to connect to room 1. And since we've been to room 1, we know that the only one of these rooms that could connect to room 1 is room 20. That's the only room that has a door to it from 1. So if you were following the loop and you hadn't explored any of the rest of the maze, you wouldn't know that room 20 has a door going back to 1, but you could reason out that it has to be room 20, not any of these other rooms, because these other rooms don't connect to 1, and we know that 20 at least has a door coming to it from 1. And so I've suggested maybe when the text talks about looking at it from both sides, or from all sides, it's if you look at the 16-step path from both sides, if you think of it not just in terms of going forward, but if you think of it from the end of it coming back, you can actually reason without regard to anything but the room numbers that 20 has to be your next stop. But I don't know that that was really intended by Manson. It's just maybe a side effect from the way the maze is laid out that you can do that kind of reasoning. The rest of this we've read, I think, in its entirety. They really couldn't decide which way to go. Half of them wanted to go one way, half another. They were close to splitting up when there was a rattling sound, and one of the doors was shaken from the other side. That relates to room 10. They all stopped talking and moved closer together. They soon agreed on a direction, and we departed for room 20.
Hey, I want to stop you there for a second. This just dawned on me again. The concept of snakes and ladders, even though it's not chutes and ladders, there's a ladder in this room, and he mentions rattling from the other door, like a rattlesnake maybe. You're going down if you go through the door. It's possible. Anyway, continue.
No, I think we were pretty much there. Um, that they all stop talking, I don't know whether that has any clue significance or if that's just the tie-in with 10, where the people on the other side of the door get silent when they shake the door. Moved closer together, I think. Well, I've read that in my large solution as just meaning that they moved away from the door they weren't going to take, room 10, closer together, because they were split up into two groups. That once that noise happens, they stop talking and move closer together. But it really means that the people who are closer to the door move away from the door, not the other way around. They agree on a direction, they depart for, etc. And that's it. That's what I got on the room.
Yeah, it's not a particularly hard room by as far as rooms go. There have been better.
Yeah, the 2 and the blank on top of the dice seems almost too easy to be correct. Like, you don't have to do a lot of figuring about anything else to say, if you're saying, well, what angle do we want to look at these dice on? Well, the top of this one die is totally blank. That's unusual. That's not the usual configuration of a die, so that probably fits into the puzzle. You know, I don't think he just arbitrarily decided to do that. So if we look at the top of the dice, we've got 2 and 0, that's 20, boom. You know, and you don't have to bother with thinking too much about anything else in there to accept that solution. It's unusual that something so straightforward, I guess, does lead you to the correct door, but it's not unheard of.
No, I mean maybe it fits into what you said about how if you've seen 20 before because you saw it in room 1, so he doesn't have to try too hard here. Maybe all this is for something else. Maybe. I mean, I don't think so, but at all point, it being not a hard room, I think that was you know what, it's an easier room, I think. For that reason, because that's why I moved to 20 when I was first doing this when I was a kid, is because I had seen 20 before. So.
Well, I think we know it's an easier room because otherwise we wouldn't have any kind of solution at all for it. It would be like most of the rooms that we just don't know what to say about. Okay.
Were there any other theories that were mentioned on the Abyss that we want to mention?
Not that I recall, but I didn't do research on the Abyss ahead of time for this. I don't know. You want to sing a song or something to cover the time while I go and check it out?
No, yeah, I can read it. I'll cover some of the answers that have been.
Oh, you were already there.
Yeah. So.
You just didn't get around or what?
No, I'm here. Okay,
right.
So he talks about the 0 from the shadow and the net. We talked about that. The 2 table legs. It could be read either way, like either the net itself or the shadow could be read as a 10.
Wait, do they say that on the Abyss?
Yeah, it's credited to you.
On the Abyss, I don't think that White Raven does the split solution where it looks like it's pointing at 2 different doors and then we have to choose between them. I think he just says the net suggests 20 by circling the table leg, and there are 2 table legs.
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't credit it as that. He credits me saying that the various objects look like zeros. I don't know if I was the first person to mention that. I mean, the writing was on the wall from when we started on this. This part of the riddle of the guy by the letter E, either from the 5 from the dice. Okay, he does say that, or by seeing an E in the rope ladder. Okay, yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, I'm surprised that he has those down. Well, I mean, he wants to have something down, but I'm surprised.
You know the kind of stuff he'll put down, so I'm not surprised about that at all. I'm just surprised that he never put the little E in the vase or urn or whatever that is. I think that's more believable. Just even though small, I think Manson has proven himself to put little things in them, like in 35, that box of matches.
Yeah.
Matches. What else does he say? The correct door is 20. This is shown from the dice, the 2 and the blank. Yeah, talked about that. In the text, the guide says the net might help you. The shadow of the net provides us with a missing 0 from the blank side of the dice.
Yeah, I don't think that that's what it means.
Yeah, I mean, it just sounds like he's trying to combine that with the other one with a shadow.
It does. I mean, it seems a little bit labored. Like it seems like it's trying to avoid the two-door interpretation. When that kind of solves these problems and makes it a lot more elegant. I mean, I don't think it would make sense for there to be a 0 on a face of the die, even on a die that's meant to contain a 0, because dice don't contain like the actual characters, if that's the right word. It doesn't contain actual numerals. It contains dots equal, a number of dots equal to the numerals. So 1 is 1 dot, 2 is 2 dots. 0 wouldn't be the numeral 0, it would be 0 dots. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's no need to put a 0 on the missing die face. I don't think.
Yeah. Yep. I totally agree. You can, I think things that we talked about are the true meanings of what they are. Like with the net being the 0, I don't think you have to combine anything there. I think it's pretty clear that the dice are meant to be read together, and the net and the table are meant to be read together. I don't see that there's any reason why they should be combined.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think it ties so much in the room together to see the net as the 10 and the dice as the 20. Everything else is pointing you towards something with a 0 and choosing between those two doors. I don't know. It makes sense to
Hey, I'm
me.
gonna share my screen because he put some images here. I'm just gonna show you.
Okay.
All right. Oh shit. Oops. There, you see it?
Yeah.
So I guess he drew. I don't know when he drew this, but this is the top view of the room.
Oh, I never looked at this before.
Yeah, me neither. This is the first time I'm seeing it. I don't know if there's anything helpful here. It's pretty much we already talked about them things looking like 0s. What's this one? This crescent.
Yeah, I guess that's you can't see the entire shadow of the net because it's under the table.
Oh right. Okay. Yeah. Well,
That's
that's what
interesting.
you wrote on.
It does.
This room is being credited with 4 stars out of 5. So maybe there's something White Raven thinks he knows that hasn't been mentioned by the illustrious Wikipedians / Mazecastians.
Yeah, he's got something. He's got some other idea that maybe maybe it'll be hit upon. I don't know. It's hard when we've already seemed to have a really encompassing solution, to try to find out what that missing thing is, and it might be something good. It's just hard to see where there's room. Well, that's not really true. If he's got a good explanation for those eyes, um, that. Oh no, I think he's already said down there that he doesn't though. I think he's already said down there that he doesn't know. Maybe they are just 0s. He's not sure. So I don't think that's part of it. But it seems to me like that's the work to be done on 37 is, if there is work, is what's the deal with those eyes, and how certain can we be about the letter E, which obviously I don't think I think is good. Like I started to rant about, I thought it was good, but no one else liked it, and then all of a sudden, I guess my peer pressure got to you, and you suddenly liked it. But it's the two of us against the world still on that little E.
Hey man, if they have a better one, we're all ears.
All right.
Yeah.
I think we're done with this then for tonight. Do we want to pick another room now, or leave it up for mystery? I kind of like when we pick it at the end of the episode.
I kind of would like 32. I don't know if that we've done that, but I got a few things to say. Not necessarily solutions, but I got some cool ideas that I haven't mentioned either on the chat or on here. So.
We did do room 32.
Oh shit. Okay.
Well, why don't you just say your ideas right now?
Okay. It's just one. Well, just one that I want to bring up now, and that's basically. I'm gonna go to the room. Actually, you bring up room 32 on your screen, and I'll talk about it.
Yeah, give me a minute.
One of the sentences, it says, The symmetry was also disturbed by the apparent loss of one of the room's statues. My visitors thought a thief had broken into the room, blah, 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 blah. So the common conception of this is, maybe a misconception, is that either this statue has been stolen or it animated itself and walked off through the wall. But I think what a lot of people are missing here, including myself until I picked this up again, is the words "by the apparent loss." So what if indeed there was no statue here to begin with? Maybe we're just fooled into thinking there's a statue, but it was meant to be like this. And maybe I'm sort of making a stretch here, but maybe the bird is a shape changer, and maybe that's what's being hinted at here with the guy holding 6 who's got bird wings, and like maybe the bird is a shape changer. It would fit with the whole Greek mythology thing. But what I really wanted to say is the main thing, what I said before, is about how the apparent loss, the phrasing of that, it sort of gives the impression that maybe there is no other statue here. Maybe the one statue is the only one.
Maybe that's not even a statue. Maybe it's just kind of standing there to make it look like a statue, but...
There you go, right? Maybe it's the other way around, yeah. Anyway, that's all I had to say about that. So, I don't know, you want another room? What haven't we done here?
We'll do our professional flip through the book moment that everyone at home is eager to watch. Wait a minute, was I even screen sharing? I thought I was screen sharing, but I don't see any screen sharing going on. Well, whatever. No. You know what room 32 looks like.
We're good 44. We did 44 as one of the first episodes.
Yeah.
We've been talking about that a bit. Let's not do it just yet. I want to do a little more mulling over. I got some other people talked about it. Marion talked about it on the website. I can't remember exactly what. Talked about 39 last time. 36, 35.
Boy, what a misstep this was. All right, I'm just going to pull up the list of ones we haven't done yet.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a number. We've got 38 and 40 both. We might be able to do maybe 38 and 40 together. Those are the two rooms in the trap. They're right next to each other. We got 42, 41.
We sort of did 40 at the same time as 6. We did those two together. We could do overlap. There's no rules here. We could do 30 and 40. I'm down.
I don't think we did 40 really, but we could do 38 and 40.
Yeah.
Let's do 38 and 40.
Okay.
All right. So we'll see next time. Who knows when that'll be? Maybe it'll be in 3 days. Maybe it'll be in 2 months. We're dropping like flies in the Maze community. White Raven is recovering from heart surgery, coming right off of my recovery from back surgery. We're a bunch of sick old men. That's what Maze does to you. That's what you have to look forward to, kids. There are lots of 12
hazardous to your health.
Watching this show, wondering how they can be as cool as we are. But trust me, kids, this is not a lifestyle you want to emulate. We live hard. We live hard lives. There's danger around every corner. It takes its toll, physically as well as mentally.
It's not for everyone.
So, it's okay to experiment. It's okay to dabble. But you don't want to become an addict like we are. All right. So, until next time, Mazecast signing off.